Hello, welcome to StackGenius, the podcast for GPs and LPs who want to create alpha with technology. My name is Sylvan. I send out warmest greetings to you wherever you are in the world. And I also have with me today Penny, where are you at today? I actually don't know.
Yeah, I'm based in Zurich. Hi, Sylvan. Nice to meet you.
Ooh, Zurich is beautiful, actually. And, entire Switzerland is beautiful, I have to say.
I,
But
I
yeah,
even have a lake view here, believe it or not. It's a small piece that I can see of the lake.
now I'm envious. I'm very envious. But I think people are, envious of your lake, but also they're interested in what you do. So you're the CEO and co-founder of Raized. When I saw it the first time, I was trying to summarize, what people
Mhm.
need to know about it. For me, it feels like it's like an analyst in a box. So it's almost like research as a service, but AI driven. So how wrong am I? How would you describe what Raised is?
Well, actually, that's a good way of describing it. And maybe a way to illustrate is from my own experience. So I used to work in a venture fund, and I remember very well how I had to do research on cybersecurity. So at the time, it was a new topic, and I was able to get some of the best experts in the field to really compile a report on what's going on in cybersecurity, what's the future going to look like, and what are the best companies and fields to invest in. It took me 3 weeks to do it, and I wasn't, I didn't even have everything together. So it was what I could do in 3 weeks was already a lot, but it took a while. And I thought, okay, this is not going to be available for all the topics that we are interested in, but it's something very manual, something very, that takes a long time. And with Raised, we want to really automate this whole process in a way so that we can create insights based on data for any new field, like a research analyst would do, but at the press of the button for any topic that's of interest for you. And we believe with the whole evolution now with large language models, there is so much to come to make such high level research available for everyone. And we want to be, putting our product into that field so that we can expand and investors in research capabilities like endlessly, so to say.
I think it sounds awesome. And two things critical thinkers might ask. So, what's the quality of it and how reliable is it? I think there's nothing better than helping people get a feeling for it by showing it. So, can we actually have
Mhm.
a small test run and look at how it would work?
Yes, absolutely. And maybe one comment before we go.
Mhm.
Of course, we have been struggling with hallucinations and other ways of not showing reliable information. And the key and the magic trick is here really that we control the startups that we feed into it, and we run it on our proprietary data. Otherwise, it would really become random and kind of, a made up information. Yes,
Mhm.
sure. Let's dive into it. So, oops.
Cool.
Um, no, let's go here. Sorry, let's start from scratch. So, what you do as an analyst is you can, select the topic, you can enter what you are looking for, and we will interpret it for you and give you a choice of what is the topic you want to analyze. So, Silva, maybe you have an idea what's on your mind or what's a niche that you are currently exploring.
Yeah, I recently looked at the area of robotic noses.
What is that?
Robots can already see and they can hear, but smelling is also quite important. So robotic noses, I think, is an interesting area.
Okay, so let's see what our engine makes of it. Okay, here we go. So is one of the interpretations what you are looking for? Should we try one of them?
I'm just reading, and actually, I think all three are generally good. The first two make more or are more specific than the sensing technologies in general. So,
We
robotics and
can,
environment.
we can try again if none of it is good. So
No, the first ones are good.
yeah,
The last one is just too unspecific, I would say. Yeah,
it's
pick the first
the
one.
more generic one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is the magic. It has a black screen for the time being because we are in private beta. And what's happening now is we analyze the user query. So you want to see robotic noses. We make it into a search into our own database and get all the companies out there that are operating in that field. And then we have a multi-agent approach to build the research out of it. So we are looking into what are incumbents, what is happening in the field, what could be recommendations and ideas for investors to dive deeper and to ask the startup when you meet them. And that's happening right now in the back. It takes about a minute or so, and then we can see the output.
And you said proprietary data. So, I mean, I couldn't imagine that you built a database of all the startups yourself. So you buy the data somewhere, I assume?
Yes and no. So we have our own detailed representation of the startups because otherwise we could not really go that deep and find perfect matches. So for each startup, we have a much more granular view of the startup, including what is the target customer, what is the technology that they are using, and what is the problem they are solving. And then when it comes to identifying the startups, we discover most of the startups ourselves. So we have a scraping technology that goes around the web and looks for new startups that are entering the global stage. Yeah. We do complement our data also when it comes to the funding information. So that's true. But overall, it's our proprietary data. And only since we have this granular view, we are able to really find competitors and similar companies.
Okay, that's helpful. So we now see a report. That's the result that came out, right?
And it is, as you said, on what I didn't know, it exists, electronic nose technology. The report is a first version of our product. So imagine if you were building.
You said you're in closed beta currently, right?
Closed beta, and it's it's as if you were building a big tunnel, for example. You don't start with digging the big hole and doing everything in one thing, but you would go and do the first small hole that connects the dots. And this is what you see here. So it's the report that takes your topic, goes to the database and creates a small report to put the startups into a context. So you can see in a nutshell what's most happening in the space, what are the trends and challenges. So I guess you are up against traditional gas detection systems. I'd say that's true. Since we have AI and machine learning, a lot of it can come much faster. As I understand, the nose and the sensing is much more difficult than what the eye does. So I guess that's very relevant. And here we see the startup companies that we have identified in our database. So that's the companies that are active in this space. We have identified 6 companies, so probably there's a few more in the database that we would get if you would sign up to our platform. So we give the choice to either get the small report or go for a longer version, but obviously this would be available on our platform then.
Actually, the companies or some of the companies that I researched myself are in here. So Osmo is a big US one. Yeah, actually, it says Cambridge, USA. The German one I looked at, the London one I looked at. So definitely a few hits in there. So that's good.
And I guess also some that you didn't know, right?
That is correct. So the one in Miami and the one in Thailand, I did not know.
Nice, because that's the beauty, and it's fascinating when you look at the startup landscape. For any topic, there is actually oftentimes independently popping up in several places the same technology or the same kind of startup. And I find it really important to understand the competitive landscape, including the time when these things were happening, to see if it's a new trend, if it's maybe over, if what's happening on a global scale. So we also give you the the country, obviously, but also the incorporation year to make it more transparent if where on the hype curve a topic is sitting.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Understood.
Yeah, we show incumbents if there are any. So not all topics obviously have incumbents, but oftentimes we have big companies that are also acting in the space. Think of chatbots, for example. They would also be offered by some of the biggest vendors, software vendors in the world. And then
Mhm.
we offer recommendations for a VC investor, in particular questions you can ask a startup if you meet them or if you write out an email. So oftentimes there are specific things per sector that you would like to understand and make the startup think about. And then we give you some ideas of what are the potential pitfalls, because in every market there is some things that are typically more difficult to do, or that could even hinder the whole idea to become big.
Mhm. Fully
Yeah.
agree.
So
Very cool.
that's it.
And so that's helpful for me, by the way. And I think it's awesome, specifically as you guys are in closed beta currently. So I'm trying to think again how I would feel about the trust in the result. So what would you tell somebody who says he's afraid of unknown unknowns? So how do you know that you don't miss an important one in there, that those are the most relevant ones? What can we give them to feel at ease with this?
Yeah. So here you see the 6 that we got out of the database with
Hmm.
the current implementation. And we are currently fine-tuning to also be able to show more if there are some startups that are adjacent, because
Hmm.
maybe there are startups that you would consider active in the space, but you wouldn't consider straight competitors. And we will make it available also to show companies that are, for example, earlier in the value chain or later, or
Hmm.
that you would consider relevant but not exact competitors. So that's what we are currently working on.
That's helpful. And who's your perfect customer now in the closed beta phase? Is it early stage folks? Is it late stage folks? Or give us a sense for who the perfect match would be.
Yeah, actually, we are currently working with two types. One
Mm,
is actually an early stage investor, so someone who
mm,
wants to understand trends relatively early, and early stage is all from pre-seed to Series A. So it's definitely relevant for the guys who are looking for a Series A investment in a particular space. And the
mhm,
second one, and that's also going to be a big market, is the corporate innovation units. Oftentimes, they have a concrete use case or mandate, what they would like to do with an innovative technology, but they are lacking the research skills and the way to understand a topic very early in its full capacity. And for them, it's going to be also important that we do not just have recommendations that are good for a startup investor, like we have here,
mhm,
but
mhm,
we also will create a version where we have recommendations that are more for starting a pilot project and for getting a collaboration going with an innovative startup company. So that's the two markets. One is the VC investors, early stage, and the other one, the corporate innovators that are looking for companies to partner with.
Interesting. I like that. So, what else is there to know about your product? Do you have specific plans that you can already make people's mouth watery with? So, what should people know?
Yeah, so we are open for people who would like to test the product and help us improve it and make it even more precise. So you asked already the question of how reliable is the data. So I can test it with the use cases I can think of, but it would be even better to have a more diverse number of cases. And then the next step is going to be a competitor analysis. So here we are going to take, let's say, Smell Inspector as an example, and then we will create a version of the report that will just focus on competitors to Smell Inspector and compare how this technology compares to Smell Inspector and how you would judge the company in a due diligence, for example. So that's the next thing going to be. And then we want to make it into a much more detailed report that also features all the startup companies in the whole value chain. So, for example, from research to hardware production to using the technology to the specific software. I'm making this up. Some of the value chains are that complex. So that's going to be the next level that we are going to.
That would create a lot of value, I think, to understand the space and the adjacent players as well. So I can definitely see that. So given that you're fairly early, that you're developing the product, is there anything you can already say about how pricing would work, even if it's not, individual dollars you give us now, but how might it work?
That's a very good question, and something we are currently evaluating. So as a competitive product, you have the consultants that are doing this very manually. It takes a long time, and such a report could be anything between 2,000 and 30,000, on depending on how deep you want to go. And then on the other hand, we have a product here that can scale relatively easily in terms of an additional report. It's not that expensive for us to make. Of course, having the whole technology and engine around it is complicated, but each report only creates very marginal additional cost. So now we have to figure out what is the good balance. So what is actually the value that we create? What is the a price point that we can justify in terms of how much are we giving the customer so that they can replace some of the very expensive research work, but it should still become a tool that they can use on a daily basis. So probably we are going to have some of the aspects that you can order in a subscription way so that you can do as many as you want, more like a search. While the more complex research work that maybe even involves some manual checking on our end would probably be something where you pay per report and where you get something that is much more complicated or much more value than just the search piece of it. Yeah, so see, it's not a very concrete answer.
No, that's fair.
I mean, when you think of it in 5 years from now, I think a lot of the research work that is currently done and that we pay for will be completely transformed. So you will not have to wait for annual reports on a specific industry like you do now with the big research vendors. And you will also not have to do all the research yourself with, Google and some databases, but it's going to be a much more interactive way, and therefore this whole market is going to change in a way that we cannot really foresee, right?
I agree. And by way of unsolicited feedback, so I think you guys are onto something. And I also applaud you for giving early access and not being afraid to show, under the hood. I think that's great. So I hope that the audience will get in contact with you and find it helpful as well. So then in closing, so you told us earlier you're in Zurich. So what's the last event you visited in Zurich or the last restaurant? So what's good in Zurich?
You mean for business trips, or you mean to
You
enjoy?
tell us.
Actually, what I really like to do is I love to walk around the lake. So the lake is very beautiful. It has a promenade. It has some bars, some restaurants, and it's what you can see in Switzerland. You can experience the nature. So you see the mountains now with snow, and it's my way to work. So I really love that, and I invite everybody to do that. Maybe also because it's something that you can do for free. As you know, Switzerland is an expensive place. A lot of people are shocked when they go for a drink or a restaurant. And I was in Munich just now on the Bits and Pretzels, and I was so
nice.
happy to invite everybody for a drink, because 4 drinks in Munich is 1 cocktail in Zurich.
I remember that I ordered a hamburger. It was a vegan hamburger in Zurich. It was not a fancy place. It was just a normal place. It was 35 bucks.
Oh
35.
my God.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Well, Penny, anyway, so I hope that you will thrive and will have enough money for enough burgers in Zurich. And thank you very much for being with us today, and have a fabulous day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.